Welcome to a new episode of Ask a Zeldatuber. And this time I'm super excited because our guest is none other than Nintendo Black Crisis. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I was super nervous actually about this episode because you're one of my favorite Zelda tubers.
Oh,
And I
thank
was
you.
like I was so excited about this and I was so nervous and everyone around in my Zelda tuber bubble was just like, chill, he's so nice, all's gonna be good.
Nah, man, nah, that guy's a jerk. I've talked to him before. Awful.
Okay, I'll have to spread the word then.
Yeah, yeah. You should just avoid contact.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. So, as you may know, I don't know if you've seen episodes of this series before, but basically what this is I sit down with you, I ask you some super generic questions, and some weird ones, but this whole series is about honestly, I don't really know. I'm just a fangirl who thought it would be cool to have a series where I just interview people about how they got into Zelda and all that. Just have all those information compact in one place. And so this is how it kind of got created. And I'm super happy that you're here with me today. Like I already mentioned, I was super nervous. But it's good now, actually. I think the technical difficulties made this way more relaxed now.
Yeah, more, set the tone a bit more to just a haha. It's all for just a good time, and it's also just such a like. You mentioned you're nervous, but honestly, whenever I get invited on podcasts and things, especially recently, I have started to go on a bit more to get a bit more comfortable because I've been on a lot now. But it's just even for someone like me, there is a bit of stress, and you're worried. Sometimes you're talking to people that you haven't really interacted with before, but the more you do it, the more accustomed you get to it. So.
That is true. I already feel way more relaxed there than I did on my very first episode, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, let's start. Let's dive right in with how did you get into Zelda?
So it might come as a surprise, but when growing up, I was more of a Mario fanboy, and I mostly just played Mario-related games. And I think one of the things that got me into trying Zelda or wanting to test it out was because it was another one of those big series that Nintendo made. And I remember watching some footage from some games, and the first one I tried was Majora's Mask, which is probably one of the worst ones to start off with, given the time limit and everything. Some would argue that it is a pretty good one to start off with, but the fact that there is that time limit, it really does kind of stress you out, especially if you're a kid. The most simplest puzzles, your brain just turns off because you think, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. So I played a bit of that. I didn't get past the first temple. Eventually, later on, once I had a 3DS, I tried out Ocarina of Time 3D, and I loved that game. And that's sort of what got me into trying out some other games. So I played A Link Between Worlds, Twilight Princess for the Wii. I think there was also another one I played. Some of Wind Waker. I didn't finish the original because the moment the Triforce chart quest came up, I'm like, all right, I'm out. I don't want to. Luckily, Wind Waker HD fixed that with how they handled that quest stuff. And I think there was one more game that I played, but I can't quite remember. A lot of the games I played were after my channel exploded and did really well following Breath of the Wild, because I started to get more invested in the lore, make more videos on Zelda. So after that is when I had played other games like Skyward Sword, Four Swords Adventures, A Link to the Past, So yeah, most of the Zelda titles came after my channel had started to do well with Breath of the Wild theories.
How did you come about? And like, this is not one of the pre-made questions. This is just my personal interest. I know that you have that little side project of playing through every game and recording footage.
Mm-hmm.
How did that came about? Was it just like you not finding any footage, or was it while you were playing you were like, oh, I could just literally record this?
It was a bit of both, but definitely a part of it was me just not having a bunch of footage to use. And that's why some of the first projects on my Archive 64 channel, they are games where it's really hard to find high quality footage. But one of the first ones I played through was Spirit Tracks, because it's a DS game, and like it's really hard to find footage that's properly upscaled because it just uses the DS resolution. And then I played Phantom Hourglass. But yeah, a big motivator for that was I wanted to have my own archive of just really high quality Zelda footage for all Zelda games that I could go back to. And I had thought about it for a long time, and it just ended up being something where I'm like, oh hey, I'm just gonna upload it and I'll make it so anyone can use this footage. And that's why whenever I go into a project, I try to do a bit of prep and make sure it's as high quality as possible. And yeah, another reason is just because I do play quite a few games, and it's like, why don't I just have a separate channel to upload these playthroughs to?
I honestly love that idea. I remember when I first heard about it, I became quite obsessed with it because, like, it's not something you just find quite often. And, like, I just love watching a video sometimes because, like, there's no, like, commentary or anything. I can just watch it and enjoy it, like, while I do the dishes or so. Like, and I know from other people that they really appreciate that project. So, like, I think it's really cool that you're doing that.
Yeah, honestly, it makes it worth it when I hear people, talk about how it's really helped them. I remember even, like, I was in a call with Zeltic, and he mentioned how he was using some of my Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass gameplay. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. But a perfect example is one Zelda game, I think it's the one I most recently did, was A Link Between Worlds. That's one game where I could not find a single playthrough that had really high quality. And all the ones that did, there were, like, overlays on it, face cams, and it just wasn't fit for editing, so...
Yeah. Well, it's a great service to the community.
Yeah, and I might as well advertise that once Tears of the Kingdom releases, I definitely will be doing my first blind playthrough, recording all that. It won't be as high quality as the other stuff because, well, it'll be on the Switch. But eventually I will probably do a second playthrough that's more efficient and walkthrough-ish. So, yeah, for anyone who... Because I know a lot of people want to watch me stream the game, especially my first playthrough, but it's something that I don't want to have the stress of live streaming it and, potentials of spoilers. Even if I have the chat off, you still have that pressure of, like, performing well. So if anyone who wanted to see me play it, I will have that first playthrough on my no commentary channel. So
nice. I know that Adam is definitely prepping to stream his first playthrough. Well, I'm just probably gonna hide in my room and not come out for like 2 weeks or so.
Like at most, I'm gonna be recording, like, I'm gonna stream the first 4 hours of it, and then after that I'll just make a new file and then do that whole thing in my own time.
Yeah, makes sense. While we're talking about the second channel, let's move back to the main channel. What made you decide to start an actual channel and start talking about Zonai?
Well, it all started when I was born and I saw my first swirl shaped. The first thing that came out of my mouth was not no or mom. It was, oh my gosh, is that a Zonai swirl? And thus a legend was born. Anyways, so originally I got a lot of inspiration before I wanted to do like theory related stuff. I watched Logical Conroy and I wanted to do like Let's Play related content, but I tried it, wasn't very good at it, and I found I also kind of mimicked other people's styles, and when I felt like I was doing my own style, it just didn't feel that entertaining. And throughout that time, another huge inspiration I had was channels like Game Theory, and I always loved like the physics and science-y based stuff. And I at one time I did kind of try to make a Game Theory like channel, though again I was cleaning too much on that formula. Then eventually Breath of the Wild released. I was a bit of a Zelda fan, but I'd only played a select amount of titles. I decided to play it. I noticed a little detail. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So this talks about how Zelda did love Link. I decided to do a little mini video on it. Not very high quality, but it was just my first attempt at something I thought maybe it would do pretty well. And 1 month later, the algorithm just picked it up. And then it did
Yeah.
really well. So then I did a follow-up to that, looking at Link's perspective. And then after that, it was just kind of, you know, game theory-ish kind of videos, but for Zelda.
Nice. I forgot what I wanted to say.
That's fine.
I actually really loved your second video about their relationship. I remember when I got into Zelda, there was, I mean, the very first Zeldatuber I actually ever watched a video of was Celtic, because my best friend who introduced me to Zelda also introduced me to Zeldatubers, and she showed me a Celtic video. And then I actually found Adam's channel, and then one of the very first videos I watched outside of Celtic and Hyrule Gamer was actually your video about their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know, that is just a video that I, like, really deeply connect with my beginning of Zelda. So, yeah, it's a very nice video. What is your favorite thing about the Zelda community?
I guess one of the first things I think of is just there isn't, obviously there is still, you know, the toxic part of every video game community, but for the most part the Zelda community seems pretty chill, especially though when it comes to like content creation and stuff. I see a lot of other communities where there's always, like, every day there's drama between different YouTubers and stuff, and there doesn't seem to be any sort of tension like that with all of us. We're all fine with working with each other, and this doesn't just extend to content creators. Sometimes you see a really cool theory or you get in a discussion with someone and it just helps lead to some interesting topics or videos, and it's really fun to just get to know other people who are part of this community or those who are looking to get into it.
I agree with there heartfully. Like, it's just, I love this community. Moving on, what is your favorite Zelda game and why?
It's really hard to pick.
And don't say Twilight Princess,
No.
because I think if no one else has Twilight Princess, I will leave this question
No, Twilight Princess isn't on there. The problem with a lot of series is it's difficult for me to figure out a favorite game because I feel like it's always changing. But I would have to choose between three. It's either Wind Waker HD, A Link Between Worlds, or Majora's Mask.
Majora's Mask is the correct choice there.
Now, it's funny because it's something that I know a lot of people would be shocked to hear, and I've said this before, but if I had like a top 10 list of games of all time, I don't know if Zelda would be on there just because I have so many other series that I like playing and so many other games. But with that said, not only do I have a good feeling that Tears of the Kingdom will become my favorite Zelda game that I can like say with confidence.
Yeah.
It also
I'm honestly
it also will probably, it does have the potential to be in my top 10 of all time because from what I've seen, everything about it looks really good. So
yeah, that's the thing. Like, for me personally, I never was as much of a gamer as I wanted to be, just because my family didn't really have the means to it. But like, Zelda is not a part of my top 3. It is of my top 5, yeah, but like my top 3 are like very like partially very nostalgic childhood, like Zanzara and Dragon Age and Dragon's Dogma. And I actually like Skyrim more than Zelda. But like with what we've seen from Tears of a Kingdom and like knowing now how apparently big it is after it got leaked, I'm just like, that's the thing. I don't know much about the story. I don't know much about, like, I've only seen which I didn't really get spoiled from the leaks, but I heard that it's massive. And if there's one thing, I'm currently playing for Skyrim again, right? And instead of like Breath of the Wild or anything, I'm just in a super obsession with Skyrim right now. And I'm always amazed that Skyrim is actually a smaller map than Breath of the Wild, because Skyrim has just so much more that fills that map. And hearing now that Tears of the Kingdom is much bigger and apparently also has much more content makes me so excited.
Just
Like,
just hearing it right now, I'm thinking, oh my gosh,
yeah.
like, what am I gonna get myself into here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if I'm currently on a challenge myself, which I will not. Maybe I'll be able to do it before I can play Tears of the Kingdom. I want to play through every quest and every dungeon, and like, I don't know. I've already put like hundreds of game hours in it, and I haven't reached that yet. And I'm just like, and Tears of the Kingdom is supposed to be so much bigger. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's true. It's just what I heard from, like, you know, people who actually got spoiled. But like, I'm so excited.
Speaking of that, I probably should explain why my favorites are the three I mentioned. So, A Link Between Worlds, it's just a game. If I ever want to play a Zelda game, I feel like I can pick that one up anytime and just 100% it again. It's just so easy to pick up and go through. I love how, I guess, how interesting the wall merge mechanic is, because a lot of times they might try to, you know, put in like a gimmicky thing. Not just like, I'm not just talking about Zelda, but just games in general. But the wall merge mechanic was done so well, and it led to many really interesting puzzles. And the dungeons themselves, they were really short, but they were also incredibly fun, and I always enjoy going back to them. That's one of the things that I do look forward to. I think that they handled the collections very well with the Mai-Mais. It's one of my favorite collector items to get in Zelda. I'm just not a fan of a bunch of the other ones. You know, they have their pros, but there's also a lot of downsides. For Wind Waker, I adore how it looks visually, and it has its own charm. And then Majora's Mask, because they're limited to 3 days, those 3 days are so fleshed out. The side quests are so interesting. I love how every NPC has a specific schedule, and for some quests, you have to do certain things, or else the NPC won't be there or do a certain action. For example, if you don't save the lady who has their bomb stolen, that leads to some other things. I just love that whole system, and I think that limit caused them to fully flesh out those 3 days.
Yeah, I agree. Like, Majora's Mask is my favorite Zelda game for those reasons. And A Link Between Worlds was actually my my fourth. No, actually, no, I have to think. I think it was the fourth Zelda game I played. And, I don't know, I just absolutely loved it. Maybe even more than Minish Cap.
I love Minish Cap's. Minish Cap's sprite design is like the best. It's so good.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, I haven't played, like, A Link to the Past, for example, yet, or anything. Like, I actually haven't played that many Zelda games. But, like, I really loved A Link Between Worlds. That was just so cool and something so totally new to me. So, that was good. That was a good game. Who is your favorite companion in all of those Zelda games?
It's funny because recently I had replayed Twilight Princess, and it was only the second time I'd ever replayed it, and it was the first time I played it on the Wii U version. And I have to say, Midna is the best companion, because...
That's...
What?
I'm keeping like a log. That's 4 out of 4 Zeldatubers. That's
Well, yeah, the moment the moment you mentioned Twilight Princess picking the app, people probably say Midna. But the reason Midna is so good is because it feels like she herself has her own character arc. A lot of these companions, they just kind of, they accompany the hero on their adventure, and yeah, a good amount of them, they do have a sad farewell or ending, like the King of Red Lions and you know, kind of Navi with what's suggested, as well as Fi, obviously, classic, because that's a very sad farewell. But Midna just has her own growth as a character, and it makes it so much better, because her motives for being with Link at first were just selfish, and she didn't care at all what happened to Hyrule. But throughout the game, you see that character develop, and I think that's why she's my favorite.
I love that because I know I always make a joke out of like how everyone's picking Midna and all that, but it is a fact. Like, her story is the most fleshed out and the most touching. Like, I don't think that Nintendo, if we ever bring back companions, will be able to maybe achieve that again, just because Midna was so special. Navi's still my favorite, though.
Hey, listen.
I chose her for all the wrong reasons, okay?
This is a door. You can open it. Stand in front of the door and press A. I love Zelda games.
I chose her for all the wrong reasons, but I will never ever like leave her in the dark, like alone in the dark. I love that fucking little like I knew of Navi before I ever played Zelda. Like, obviously, like, you know of Zelda, you know, eventually you realize that Link is that guy in the tunic and that Zelda is like the princess. Like, I knew of Zelda. I heard of Navi before. You know what I mean? And when I got into Zelda, the very first game I actually ever played was the Link's Awakening remake on the Switch. Because my best friend was just so astonished that I've never played Zelda before. She was just like, what the fuck? Take my Switch, play this game, like, you know? And then I heard about Navi, and I heard how everyone hates Navi. And I was like, nah, I need to love her now. Like, she needs someone in her corner.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, to be fair, honestly, I'd argue that Fi is actually worse, because Fi stops you way too often. Yet people do seem to like her more than Navi, so I totally get it, because she doesn't stop you as often as Fi. So I would say Fi is more of a hindrance.
Yeah, the thing is, I went very confident. I was like, Navi's my favorite companion. And then I played Ocarina of Time, and I was like, oh shit. But I stuck with it. I even got a Navi tattoo. So, like, I'm like, that's my baby. Talking about companion, moving on to non-playable characters, do you have a non-playable character outside of companions that you just adore?
I don't know. This one's kind of hard, because I was thinking about this prior to the recording, and I couldn't, you know, select one in particular. I guess I suppose one that's just hilarious is the lady who's like attracted to guardians and stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's just hilarious. Yeah, but it's also funny because she's programmed like any other NPC, so if you actually bring a guardian to her, she just runs away. After all that talk, like, oh, I want to go up close to a guardian and like pet it and touch it and stuff. It's like, nah. Just the way also she abandons that orb. She's like, oh no, that old thing, nah. But this one counts as a companion, but I also just love Linebeck.
Yeah, that is also a name that like pops up super often.
I'm sure if I thought more, I could, you know, there's one that I'm not thinking of at the moment. But, you know, I'd have to like go through every Zelda game and like, all right, here's all the characters.
True. Moving on. From all the characters and everything, let's go to theories. What is your all-time favorite theory about any Zelda game?
This is another one that's difficult to answer, but a theory that was brought up earlier in Breath of the Wild's release, which I love, is the idea that the fortune teller who prophesied Ganondorf's return, or Calamity Ganon's return, was actually a Yiga spy, and they were setting up the royal family for failure. Because they told... So basically, in Rome's cutscene, they talk about how the whole reason they were aware of the threat of Calamity Ganon returning is a fortune teller who said that the signs of the resurrection of Calamity Ganon are clear, and the power to oppose it lies in the ground. And that's what led the royal family to dig up the technology. So if that was a spy purposely making sure that they got the technology so that Ganon could later corrupt it, it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the...
I remember that.
That's one of my favorite theories. There's a couple other ones that I remember. One is a video that Bandit Games had made back then, and it was just talking about how there were like 2 different Master Swords, and it has to do with mostly Wind Waker. And it wasn't a theory I don't think it was a theory which was like brand new. I think it was just one of the first documented versions of it in a video. But I really liked it. I liked that video. And again, there probably are a couple others that I for sure would be like, oh yeah, that's my favorite. But given how many theories people have made, it's kind of hard to remember.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
Opposite to that, what is a theory you absolutely hate?
Link is dead and Majora's Mask. No, I'm not gonna go with that. That's such a predictable answer. I guess it's not really something that I think of often because, I don't want to remember and be like, oh wow, this person made this theory and I hated it. But I suppose one that I can think of is the possibility of Demise coming back. Because in my opinion, it's made pretty clear in Skyward Sword that he the rest of his consciousness was being eroded away by the being sealed to the Master Sword. And obviously people, including me, when we first saw that image of that recent Tears of the Kingdom trailer, we were like, oh, that looks exactly like Demise. But I think it's just a callback, and that's just Ganondorf, transforming into a figure that kind of looks like resembles Demise, mainly for reference. It could also be him becoming a demon. But yeah, I'd say Demise coming back is one of the ones where I'm not really on board with it.
I agree there, honestly. I think it would be cool, but on the other hand, I think if Demise comes back, that would be the actual end of Zelda, how we know it.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of similar as well.
I don't know if they would actually do it.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of similar as well to the Ganondorf is actually good. Because I would love to see them try to put that in a story, because it adds variety to it. It's not just the same old. But I'm not sure if they would ever really go that route.
Yeah, I think it would be super interesting to maybe have a game, where you start with all 3 of them being friends, and then Ganondorf getting corrupted the older they get, basically, and then you have to fight your friend, basically, at the end. I think that is a route they could safely take.
Yeah,
without changing it up too much.
Yeah, I was about to say, they could probably make, one game that's sort of more of a Ganondorf origin story.
Yeah.
So they could at least maybe humanize him a bit more. He still gets corrupted, or, he still has evil intentions, but I still would love to see a game where it mostly focuses on his side.
Yeah, absolutely same. So, Tears of the Kingdom. By the time this is recorded, it's 10 more days until the release, technically 9. but by the time this episode comes out, Tears of the Kingdom will be out already.
Whoa.
So...
Time travel.
Yeah.
Hello, future me. Hope you're not playing and getting too much. Scratch that. I hope you just eat, sleep, and drink it.
What is, I don't know, one prediction or one big last, oh, I hope they include this, that you want to say now, and we come back to this recording in a month and see if it actually happened?
Like a prediction? Like theory-wise? Okay. So I guess just to start, I will say that I have, ever since Friday when I heard there was a collector's edition that may have leaked, I have stayed offline, and I have no intention of looking at any leaks. So what I'm saying is not me, knowing about stuff and choosing to not say it. I just straight up don't know about the game because I'm going in blind. So I am like 100% sure that this is going to be a case where Zelda gets transported to the past. There was a bunch of evidence in the recent trailer that had highly suggested it, and in the preview footage, I won't go into detail, but one person did share a particular screenshot of the game's map, and it gave us the name of a particular place, and while the name itself could be seen as like, oh, that's cool, reference, it almost like 100% confirms that there, it has very heavy implications on the game's story, and it makes me further believe that we are going to be dealing with time travel here. So Zelda probably finds the recall tier, in the present as she's falling. That's where the glow comes from, and then it uses recall and sends her back in the past. So that's my prediction. It's a bit of a safe one because a lot of people have come to that conclusion, but
I have not seen that screenshot. Now I'm really curious.
Yeah, I mean, I can always share it after if you want to see it, but like it is huge. Like I talked to some people like, was this part of the embargo? Can I technically talk about this because the implications this has is kind of huge.
I honestly, I've seen one screenshot from the leaks, and that was enough for me because that was already something that like gave something away. That wasn't a spoiler. That wasn't like, something super huge, but it gave away a game. How do you say that in English? Like something that happens gameplay wise. And I was just like, that's already too much information.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a funny thing. I have 2 Instagram profiles, right? A private one and a public one. And on the public one, I follow a ton of Zelda-related channels. And I really cleared that out on the public one, right? Like, I made so sure that, like, I ever have people, like, muted or unfollowed entirely, or that the few people I still followed, I knew they wouldn't post any spoilers. I got spoiled on my private channel while scrolling through Reels. I never had a fucking Zelda reel beforehand on that channel.
Of course.
And suddenly something just popped up, and I was like, no way, this just happened.
I'm stressed whenever I go on to get, because like I'm super late on like a little preview analysis video I was working on because I was gonna have a friend over for a few days, and I also had recently celebrated my birthday, so I had all that stuff to worry about, and I'm only now getting back. Yes, thank you. And I'm only now getting back to it, and it's after the leak, so it's probably gonna feel like super old news. But I had to get on and as quickly as possible find the videos I was gonna look at because they all had their own preview footage, and I had to like be careful because I'm like, I can't spend too much time on here. I'm gonna get spoiled.
Yeah. That reminds me, by the way, I don't know how I took that leap in my brain, but it made sense. Obviously, you're very known for being obsessed with the Zonai and having that amazing, super long series about the Zonai on your channel. I think I can safely assume that, like, after Tears of the Kingdom, you will return to that series and, like, make a new part about it? Or are you like, okay, no, I'm just gonna leave it there, and I don't know.
So, part 1 was focused mostly on Breath of the Wild itself and like creating a champion. Part 2 was more speculative, and it looked at the idea of the Zonai having an influence outside of Breath of the Wild with other games like Skyward Sword. And at the end of the video, I had mentioned that it kind of depended on if they did have a big impact in Tears of the Kingdom or not. And if they ended up not really having any involvement in the story, I would just leave it maybe at like another smaller video talking about it. But it would just be part 1, part 2. Now, because of everything we've seen and that the word Zonai is literally everywhere now, yeah, it probably is going to have a pretty big effect. You know, the Zonai Dragons are part of the logo itself. So once the game releases, I'm probably going to have a third part that will just be like the conclusion or the answers. Because I'm assuming they will answer most of our questions. And if not, then, well, yeah, I'm still going to do a part 3. And I assume that'll be it. But, you know.
Yeah. I'm so excited for that. I just realized I actually got spoiled on something else, but like, I'm not gonna say anything.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna be quiet. Moving on, we're halfway through the questions. So, and that means for everyone who knows already how this is going, it's trivia time.
Uh-oh.
I have 3 questions prepared for you. 2 are Breath of the Wild related. 1 is Wind Waker related. And I'll be quite honest with you, that Breath of the Wild related one I prepared is fucking mean. Like, it's really, really mean. Like, I was not sure if I should even include it, but I thought it's funny. So,
okay.
No stress if, like, you can't answer it. Name me just one Breath of the Wild DLC shrine.
Oh, dear.
See, it's a fucking mean question.
One Breath of the Wild DLC shrine. Oh man, I gotta think about this. You know, play some Jeopardy music in the background. Nah, you'll get struck.
I mean, it's no problem if you have no idea. This was really just like a shot in the dark.
But like, I kind of remember some of them. Isn't one literally just called a major test of strength?
I have 3 shrine names in front of me, and none of them just say a major test of strength.
There's that one though, the one-hit obliterator.
Yeah, I mean, that is. I mean, with a one-hit obliterator, you get the Great Plateau shrines. If you clear out the enemy camps, then the shrines appear.
Yeah. Does that have a different name?
I mean, those shrines have different names, yeah. Like I said, it's a mean question. We don't. You don't need to answer.
I gotta think about this though. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
All I know is that there is one shrine where like it's a fake out. You go with the obliterator, you kill the guardian, and then there's more to it.
Yeah. And then you like have to fall down the shaft.
But I suppose that one.
From.
I guess that one's a different name though.
I mean, yeah, they have different names. It's even the test of strength names have actual names. But yeah, like I said, it was. Are you not talking about the puzzle name? You're talking about the actual shrine name.
That is cruel. That is cruel.
You know what? In that case, I do accept the major test of strength.
Thank you.
Plus, by the way, it has a plus next to it.
Oh. I got it wrong then.
Because I recently played it. I just knew that there's a plus.
I guess I got it wrong then, technically.
Nah, we take it. That's 1 out of 3 already.
Oh.
So, moving on to a Wind Waker question. What is the name of the 3rd dungeon in a Wind Waker?
Tower of the Gods.
I have written down Forbidden Woods. That could be wrong though. Like I try to always fact check them.
Hold up. If you're I think that's if we're including the Forsaken Fortress, like mini dungeon.
Oh, okay. In that case, I was wrong, right?
Well, I guess it depends on how you look at it.
I mean,
the
no matter
third
how
one,
you look at it, you would have known the name.
Yeah, well, yeah, it depends on what the order is, but
Yeah. like that is just the thing. Like sometimes, it depends on like what you count. So.
Mm-hmm.
And I have another question for you, which is a bit Zonai inspired. So I think you might know that. You got all your Koroks, by the way.
Pardon?
Before I ask that question, have you achieved the golden poop, or have you not?
I have not, and I never plan to.
In that case, you might actually not know this, but east of Floria Bridge, there's a statue. So right in the Zonai area, there's a statue. And to get a Korok, you need to remove that luminous stone out of that statue's eye.
Mm-hmm.
What statue is that? Like,
Owl,
what animal
owl
does
statue.
it depict? That's correct, yeah. Nice. That's basically 3 out of 3. We that Wind Waker question was my fault, I guess. It's just like, I don't know, I always try to fact check, but like, yeah, with stuff like dungeon names, I also had that with Triforce Trends, where like, it basically depended on if you like count mini dungeons and all that kind of stuff, so.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, it's just for the fun of it, to shake things a little bit up. Moving on to our next question. Is there one thing that you really want to see introduced into the Zelda series, like a game mechanic or something lore-wise, or enemies that have not been there before that you just really think would fit the series and you really want to see it?
This one's pretty easy, actually, for me to answer. Either multiplayer or some sort of co-op system. And I know that some people, like, when they think of that with Tears of the Kingdom, they immediately think, oh yeah, playable Zelda or something. It doesn't even have to be that, because I know whether some people want her to stay, as just like a story thing, others want to be able to have gameplay segments with her. But I just want to see a Zelda game try to include some sort of co-op or online playing, because it's such a great experience when you're playing and exploring Hyrule, but I feel like it could be even better if you could play with some other people. And obviously it's very difficult to include multiplayer in a game like that, but I'd at least want them to attempt it once, and I'm not talking about like Triforce Heroes. I mean like a full-on 3D Zelda game. It would be nice to see them, see what they can come up with.
Honestly, I agree there. Like, that is also something I just really want to see. Seeing as you have not acquired all the Koroks, there's a question by a friend of mine, Tony. And Tony asks, when, not if, when the Koroks acquire guns and take their revenge upon us, will you be spared?
Short answer, no. I am like, I don't think I really realized this until I thought about it, but I am such a Korok hater with the seeds. I hate it. So I know I'm on the top of that hit list. They're gonna be first trying to find me.
Number 1.
Yeah.
Wanted number 1. What are your thoughts on the lack of consistency of the geography in Hyrule?
When you have so many games in a timeline, I see why they constantly have to change things up. If there's one thing that Tears of the Kingdom has the potential to show us, it's that you can have a game set in a similar place without that concern of it feeling too similar, because that's the number one argument you would probably hear from people when, the geography is different. Because if we're constantly exploring the same Hyrule, then things get boring. And that's something that I absolutely agree with. Though, the sequel to Breath of the Wild could very well change up or shake that argument to the point where they prove it is possible to have the same geography and still keep things fresh enough. But I'm completely fine with them changing up the consistency in terms of where stuff's located. Really, the only annoyance is when you want to theorize on things, but you can't really take the layout too seriously, given it's always switching up.
Yeah, I think that is. I know that everyone's with Tears of the Kingdom is like, oh, I'm so excited for the sky, or I'm so excited for the underground. I'll be honest, I'm so excited to just see the surface, how it's now, how that changed. I'm just so excited to just walk around everywhere and be like, that wasn't there before, and this wasn't there before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm just so hyped. I don't know how to wait the rest of the month until I can play it. Let me skip that question. Let me skip that question too. Do you think Breath of the Wild ruined the classic Zelda?
I think it just showed another way to present it. I don't feel like it ruined classic Zelda. At the most, what Breath of the Wild did was it's divided the community between the classic and the more modern of, how Breath of the Wild has an open world, how it gives you much more freedom, less of an emphasis on story. And the biggest challenge with Tears of the Kingdom is trying to combine those classic elements with the modern to appease both sides. And I had considered talking about it in a video, but ever since I've seen the previews and the recent trailer, most of my worries are gone. So I really don't feel like it ruined any sort of classic Zelda.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think so either. That's actually one thing that I think that I'm really excited to see in Tears of the Kingdom, because obviously there will be a storyline, but with it being open world again, I wonder how they will present the story so that it's in a coherent series.
Yeah.
And I'm just really I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been spoiled much. I don't know if they're I don't know if that's that's just an idea of mine that I had. I'm really not scared, but what's the English word? Apprehensive, I think is the word, towards the idea that they might, for some reason, use memories again.
Yeah, well, honestly, there is a good in the last. Did you see the last trailer?
I did see it. Yeah, I don't remember much from it. I only watched it once, to be honest.
Right. So there is a shot where you can see Link's hand in the Korok Forest. He goes to grab the Master Sword. He obviously hasn't been attacked by Ganon's malice yet because his hand's fine. And it's kind of redundant to show that also in Tears of the Kingdom. So it makes you think that maybe the story will start somewhere else, like in the cave or even on the Sky Island. And it does hint that we might get some flashbacks as to what happened prior. So I am kind of worried that they will have a form of memory system back. Now, they could... The issue with Breath of the Wild was mostly how it was all presented. I don't think people would have minded the memories as much if there was more of an emphasis on the story in the present. But yeah, there's probably going to be a form of memories in Tears of the Kingdom. I just hope that they better balance it out with present day stuff.
Yeah, I agree there. I think it would make sense to have a few memories, especially if you for some reason still have to show I mean, obviously there has been some time between the end of Breath of the Wild and the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom, and I wouldn't mind seeing flashbacks of that. But I'm just scared that it will be like the same formula, just a different setting.
Yeah.
That is, I think, my biggest concern in a way. But moving on with our questions. Do you think that theories are a way of fan fiction?
Yeah, they can. The problem is, you can't just label something as a theory. Sometimes stuff feels way more speculative, and it goes more towards or leans more towards fan fiction. So I do believe that there are a good chunk of quote unquote theories that people share around where it's more of like, oh, this would be really cool if this happened, because there's just not as much, I guess, solid evidence towards it. Yeah.
What is your playtime versus research ratio?
It's most of the time I go, like, at this point I don't like Breath of the Wild because it's not the game itself necessarily. It's just I've gone back I've replayed the same segments just to get footage for videos, and that's a part of the reason why I made that Archive 64 channel. So I would just, because I'm bad with, once I record footage for a video, I don't like label it or keep it somewhere so I need it for later. I just kind of forget about it, and then I need some space. I'm like, oh, I'll delete these old recordings. Then it's like, oh, guess I'm playing through the beginning first hour for like the 30th time. But also, sometimes the footage I need is so specific that I'm forced to replay it, and I can't just find the footage online. Like, for example, if I'm talking about Skyward Sword and I want to bring up the Evil Crystal, because that's a thing that I frequently go through in my videos, because, it's described as crystallized monster malice, I either have to go online and watch a ton of playthroughs until someone just so happens to hover over it with the description, or I myself need to go in, quickly play it, maybe find a save file online or something to make things faster, and then I have to record myself having it selected with the description. Because with theories, I always want to make sure that if I'm talking about something that's in the game, I show that it's in the game. Because then if you don't, people start to doubt you, and they start to believe that you're just making it up. So whenever I make these theories, I try my best to have the visual representation of what I'm talking about. And that's why it can be so difficult, even when you have archived footage, to be prepared for anything. So yeah, most of my time is research or recording. I barely play it casually.
That is also, I don't know, technically I could chunk that question out because that's 4 out of 4. But on the other hand, I guess it was a very predictable answer, when I put that question in. But I still think it's interesting to know because I don't know.
Well, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't really consider that. So I think it's still a good thing to discuss, because some people are curious about what our thoughts are on these games that we constantly talk about.
Yeah. We're nearly over. I actually have only 2 more questions. One is actually by you.
Oh.
But our second to last question is from Bandit Games. And he asks if you are all actually the same person.
I'm sorry, but that's classified information. I cannot disclose anything.
Okay, so I take it as a yes.
I'm not saying yes. I'm just saying I can't talk about it.
I take it as a yes. Stop me.
Why do you think people always get me and Bandit Games, who used to be Master Nintendo Bandit, mixed up?
Oh my god!
It always happens.
All the time.
It literally always happens.
It
still happens. I literally
funny.
I literally had a video I had uploaded recently, and one of the first comments said, "Man, I love this video, Master Nintendo Bandit." And I'm thinking, you're on the video. My name's right there. How?
by this point, I just assume they are a troll.
But yeah, classified information. Sorry.
But yeah, my very last question, my favorite question, and I'm still so grateful that you sent me that sound bit and I didn't have to record it myself somehow.
You're welcome.
Or like download it. You yourself asked.
Oh my gosh, is that a Zonai swirl? No, it is not, and I recommend you don't listen to anything that idiot talks about. He knows nothing about Zelda other than Zonai. Just again, don't mention him. Don't interact with him. Just leave him alone.
That's all you need to know about Zelda.
Yeah. Well.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me. For working through the technical issues, for not losing your patience.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm really glad you had the time for me. I'm really glad you agreed to this. I was super nervous originally to reach out to you because I didn't know how until Adam was like, you know, his email is on his channel. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Thank you for sitting down with me. I had a lot of fun. This was so great. And yeah, this episode will be out after Tears of the Kingdom is out. So is there anything you want to tell or say to our future viewers who already play Tears of the Kingdom at this point?
I hope you guys had a great time, and anyone who was trying to avoid leaks was able to avoid them. I would warn you to stay off, but this is being posted after the game releases, so I can just hope that you were careful, and I hope you look forward to all the content that me as well as other content creators put up regarding Tears of the Kingdom. Also, this is assuming that there's no audio issues.
Oh my god.
I'm hoping everything's good. I'm hoping. I apologize. I apologize if the audio, if it's a bit off at times. We had to.
My headphones didn't die in between, so I hope all is good.
Yeah, we had to make compromises, so hopefully it sounds good. But yeah, it was fun to be on.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, and to everyone else. Bye.
Bye-bye.